bought a house.
Sir, how is that?
Meet London's youngest multi-million.
I became a millionaire by age 20.
I'm 19. I became a...
He's 30.
For some reason, we really care about how fast someone can achieve something. Like, a lot. People blow up on social media just by talking about their academic achievements or how much money they made, and they always emphasize their age. In school, kids who excel early on are given focused attention and a lot of resources, and parents work tirelessly to make sure that their child does not ever fall behind. We literally have the Forbes 30 under 30. You cannot tell me that we don't glamorize age and success. And I mean, there is some truth in that. You want to achieve things in a reasonable amount of time. I don't want to be like 80 years old and getting my GED or my bachelor's. That really wouldn't make any sense or have any value for me. But I feel like we over-exaggerate the importance of age and certain milestones, especially for young adults and children. And here's the main issue. More early progress does not always equal more future success, and can sometimes actually limit your full potential. Let me explain.
Did you eat the ones that had like a lot of them?
Is it on? I feel like something is missing. Hold on, give me 1 second. This is what I was missing. I got my mic. For some reason, our idea of progress is linear. School has elementary, middle, high, college has undergrad, grad, and Obama has Obamacare. It takes like 10,000 hours to learn the piano, and chess prodigies start playing in the womb, so you'll never beat them, no matter how hard you grind on chess.com. The point is, the earlier you start, the faster you'll become better. The problem is, this only works in a kind learning environment. But what is a kind learning environment? Psychologist Robin Hogarth coined two types of learning environments, kind and wicked. In a kind learning environment, the rules are clear. There's immediate feedback, and you can pick up on repeatable patterns. In a wicked learning environment, the rules are constantly changing. The feedback is non-existent, delayed, or sometimes even incorrect. School is a kind learning environment, and thus, from birth until adulthood, we are in a kind learning environment. But the real world is a wicked learning environment. Let me give you an example. In the past few years, artificial intelligence has changed the way we work. It's changed the way we go to school. It's changed just about anything. Whether you believe that we're in an AI bubble or that the singularity is near, you cannot deny that everything has changed about how we achieve success. In a wicked learning environment, it may take you days, weeks, months, or even years to realize that you don't like something, or you can't monetize it, or it just doesn't fit. But the only way you can realize those things is by trying it out. In a kind learning environment, you don't really have to explore because there's already a structure in place for you. All you have to do is follow that structure. While in a wicked learning environment, there is no real structure. You create your own. Cool. Alright. Is it recording? Alright. Here you go. Here's the microphone.
All right, cool.
So what's your name, man?
Ellie. I'm a data engineer at the MTA.
What's like the biggest thing that you feel like you had to learn that school did not teach you?
Probably just the lack of structure in real life. Like in school, a lot of assignments are like, given this, do this. Everything is kind of given to you, and you apply kind of like a fairly rigid framework. Avenues outside of school, like quote unquote real world, it's a lot less easily structured. In a lot of ways, structures can make things a lot simpler, and getting it into that structured format is like more than half the challenge.
With solid structure, it's easy to show progress and show growth and show all these quantitative metrics, while in a wicked learning environment, it's hard to know what you're doing is right or if it'll help you in the future or if you're even going in the right direction. This disconnect of environments is why I feel like so many people relate to the statement, school does not prepare you for real life.
What's up, YouTube? Back at it again. This how you doing it?
Yes, 100% serious.
My name is Brandon. I'm a software engineer.
Do you feel like school prepares you for life?
No, I don't think school prepared me for life, to be very honest. Like, there's many facets of life that I had to figure out on my own. The big ones that people always talk about and that like I feel now I like realize matter are like figuring out taxes, figure out credit cards, figuring out how to make friends outside of school, like relationships in general. It just taught me how to be a good memorizer, but like it didn't teach me the practical or like the soft skills that I needed. Like even communication, I think that like it was pretty easy if you're like an introvert to like get through school without having to like talk to people all that much, or not even talk to people, but like to like learn how to express yourself. For me, like it wasn't like really conducive to me learning how to like be more expressive, and I picked up more skills through other avenues rather than school.
And it's not really anybody's fault. It's not the teacher's fault. It's not the student's fault. A kind learning environment can't really prepare you for a wicked learning environment. And when we look at the metrics that we use to say that a child is ahead or gifted and talented or maybe even a prodigy, we start to see a pattern. Reading early, writing early, being able to solve math problems ahead, finishing a grade early, getting a good grade on the SAT or whatever standardized test, or even finishing college early. We don't think that these things are impressive because they're impossible to achieve or because that the child is a genius, or maybe we do. We think that it's impressive because it's unusual. It's unusual for a child to finish a grade early. We weren't able to do that, so it's kind of like a spectacle. I drew this conclusion from a paper published 100 years ago by the American Association of the Advancement of Science. Their whole deal is that it's more important for a child to understand the actual tangible environment rather than study and rote memorize academics. And that's exactly what I think it is today. A lot of the metrics that we use to say that a child is ahead is rote memorization. I would go even as far as to say a lot of school, even in college, is rote memorization.
Okay, yeah. And now we are rolling.
You're off camera?
Yeah, I'm off camera. It's just gonna be you.
I'm just gonna be talking to them.
Yeah.
All right. My name is Victor. I'm a software engineer / physical therapist.
How did you like learn stuff in school? What was like your go-to strategy?
Don't care about it, and then the day before the test, pull all-nighter, eat a Subway sandwich, and cram it.
To procrastinate till the end?
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm the same. I'm still like that.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, yes. Because a lot of the subjects I did not care about. And also, like, that worked. Because a lot of times the tests were like on rote memorization, or you can just bullshit your way out of it because it's not very stringent. But they always talk about critical thinking, right? Like actually forming opinion or extrapolating from one bit of data and then you make a form of conclusion. It's harder to grade for those things, right?
Funnily enough, that paper also mentions that it's easier to do math than it is to socialize. More factors have to be taken account of in deciding what sort of attitude to assume toward a person than to solve any problem in calculus. You can take your time with a math problem. It's static, it's permanent. The rules won't change like the next day, which actually makes it simpler psychologically than any living thing, especially a human. And while I don't agree with everything they say, I can agree with early progress does not hold that much weight. Everyone learns to ride a bike, to read, to write, to do multiplication. In the grand scheme of things, it's not really that difficult. Eventually, everybody will learn these things. But for some reason, all the attention is given to early achievers because if they are this good at such a young age, imagine how good they will be in the future. But remember, all the progress that they achieve is in a kind learning environment, and the real world is a wicked learning environment. A study was conducted in the mid-1980s of New York's prestigious Hunter College Elementary School, which only admits children with an IQ of 155 or above. 30 years later, they checked on the alums and they were doing okay. Like, they weren't bums, but they definitely were not world changers. They had degrees, good jobs, etc., but none of them were recognized in their field or Nobel Prize winners. And that, I think, is the most important point. Most attempts to get children ahead result in genius children, not genius adults. It's pretty common towards the end of high school for you to declare your major, or at least tell people you know what you want to do for the rest of your life. But why is this the norm? Why are we made to choose what we want to do for the rest of our life when we're 18 years old? We don't even finish fully developing our brains until we're 25. I wouldn't trust my 18-year-old self to even drive a car or do taxes. So why do we trust ourselves with this huge decision? I don't even trust my 18-year-old self to staple papers together. This is such a monumental decision. It's gonna affect you for the rest of your life, apparently. I mean, it's socially acceptable and actually encouraged for you to go and take out a student loan that you might not even be able to pay back. I think about 30 to 40% of undergraduate students take out student loans every single year. America has $1.7 trillion in student loan debt, and about 3 million Americans have defaulted on their student loan payments. So then what? After you finish grinding, after you go into debt, after you graduate, 4 years of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears, and you get a job in your field, and then you realize, I don't like it. Or maybe I didn't make the right choice, or something doesn't feel right. I didn't think this is what my field was going to be. What do you do then? Do you switch? Well, obviously not, because you're going to have to admit that you just spent 4 years doing nothing, right? And you're going to fall behind everybody else.
I mean, I feel like part of it is I only have knowledge on this thing. I don't know what else. I don't know what else is out there. It's too nerve-wracking to go try something else.
It's the fear.
That fear is deep, for real.
Yeah.
I do think that specialization should be thought about more often, though. And you should be honest with yourself too, that I'm going further and further into this subject, and I need to really think to myself, hey, is this what I really wanted? Not more of well, this is a vibe, or this is what my parents wanted me to do, or whatever. It should be hey, this is what I wanted to do. And
it's hard to switch. I'll admit that. A lot of people think I'll have everything figured out within the next 4 years when I graduate college, or when I graduate med school or graduate school or whatever, or when I get this job, or when I get this promotion. But I feel like the more I achieve these kind of goals, the more I feel lost, because there's endless possibilities for me to do stuff. I'm about to graduate college with a computer science degree, and I should have everything figured out, go to big tech or whatever, get some kind of software engineering job. But truth is, I don't know if I want to keep grinding for the next 10 years to become a principal engineer or a tech lead or something like that. I don't know if I want to do that. This is just something I'm trying out. I can't definitively say that I want to do this. I feel like that's the first step in exploration, admitting that you are not right. You didn't make the right decision, or you have a lot left to learn. The attitude that school instills in you is after college, after grad school or whatever, you're kind of done with academia. You don't have to learn anymore. You did all your learning, now you just go and work. But that's not true. You're constantly learning outside of school, and I feel like that's where most people learn the most, whether they like to admit it or not. When you're watching TV, or when you're, going outside and playing with your friends, whenever you have that weird idea that pops in your head, it's all pretty spontaneous and devoid of academia. But when we try to pursue our ideas and our interests academically, I feel like a lot of that spark and love is lost, and that curiosity is kind of killed. It's not as fun to go to school for something you like as it is to just study it outside of school or do it outside of school.
I'm looking back at some of these books that I read in American Lit, and I'm wait, these books were actually pretty interesting. Too bad I didn't actually paid attention to them.
School kind of killed your curiosity. Would you agree?
I would say that. Yeah, it just forced me to think about it as work instead of something that you want to.
I feel like part of the problem is the relationship academic progress has to age. Like I mentioned earlier, you're supposed to choose what you want to do when you're 18 years old, but also the expectations are getting larger and larger for younger and younger children. According to the most recent Student Voice survey on health and wellness, 6 in 10 students cite exams as the top academic stressor. 4 in 10 students cited the pressure to do well as a big stressor, and 3 in 4 students cited getting a bad grade as a big stressor. Each year, approximately 24,000 college students attempt suicide, while 1,100 students succeed in their attempt, making suicide the second leading cause of death among US college students. And while this may not be directly linked to academic performance, I'm sure it has a part to play in it. By placing too much emphasis on academic progress, we don't allow people to grow into what they like. We pigeonhole them, and we kind of give them this mentality of choosing first and sticking with it for the rest of your life. But research has found there is massive benefits to exploring broadly to maximize what is known as match quality. Match quality is a term used by economists to describe how well a person's job suits their skills and preferences. It's actually more important to maximize match quality, even if it means falling behind. This is shown through a 2010 study that observed the British, Scottish, and Welsh school systems. English and Welsh students had to specialize while in high school, while Scottish students were actually required to study different fields for their first 2 years of college, and could keep trying stuff out after that. The question was, who was more successful, early or late specializers? The study found that early specializing students in England and Wales initially earned more because they had accumulated more career-specific skills and got jobs out of college. Scottish students, who explored more and delayed specialization, started with lower incomes but quickly caught up as they found careers they were better suited for. Also, the English and Welsh students were more often switching fields after college and after beginning a new career. Because they didn't experiment, they often headed down a narrow path before figuring out if it was a good one. Now, 2010 was a while ago, but I feel like this is more relevant today than ever. If you've gone to school in America within the last 10 or 15 years, then you probably know about the SAT, PSAT, bunch of standardized tests, honors classes, AP classes, dual credit. We have so many ways to get ahead, but we never ask if it's worth it to get ahead. Let me give a more personal example. In high school, I went to an early college program because I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I was able to take dual credit classes so that I could get ahead. I was kind of totally convinced that I wanted to be a doctor, and now looking back at it, I realize how wrong I was. I switched, and I'm glad I switched. It was probably one of the best decisions of my life. And I don't know how many times I will switch in the future. I do know that while I wanted to become a doctor, I didn't think that any other career path was possible or meant for me. I pigeonholed myself into believing that the only thing I could be was a doctor, and if I achieved anything less or different, then I was a failure.
I think that when I was going through high school, some of the big concerns from my educators and my parents were like, hey, Brandon, like, what are you going to go study? What are you going to be doing in the future? And all that. And so in senior year, I felt like I needed to pick something, or at least like know the general field I wanted to be in. And I feel like I hadn't had the chance to really explore all the disciplines. I do feel like, especially, the senior year of high school, junior and senior year of high school, you're like asked to think about these future things.
So do you think there's any downsides to placing so much importance on like early progress?
Yeah, I think it stops you from exploring. You don't really try other things because you're thinking like, this is it, that's what I'm going to do, and the rest of your life is spelled out for you. Also, it's like a lot of pressure. You want to fit that mold.
Yeah.
You believe it, your family believes it, and you don't want to break that like type of agreement, whether you really agreed for yourself or not. For me, can I talk about me?
Yeah, for sure.
So for me, it was kind of natural that I was encouraged to be in healthcare somewhere. Dad's side of family all did traditional Chinese medicine, and my mom's side of family all did like Western medicine. I also didn't know any better, I feel. Like, how am I supposed to choose at that age? So I felt like, what alternative do you have besides just taking what everyone's telling you to do? I wasn't exposed to a lot of things. I wasn't encouraged to a lot of things because they were viewed as like, no, that's not for you. Like, even the instrument you played, like, no, you're not gonna play drums. No, you're not gonna play electric guitar. You're gonna play something respectable, like piano or something, you know?
Yeah.
No, you're not gonna do violin because that's bad for people's necks. You're not really choosing.
Yeah.
You're just being told.
Yeah.
The point I'm trying to make is that learning stuff is less important than learning about yourself and your abilities and what you're able to achieve and what you like and what you don't like. And I don't really mean that in like a cliche way, like you have to go find yourself. I mean, like, exploration is a crucial aspect of success. But I know that switching is hard. Like, why risk it? I've invested my time, energy, and money into this. I maybe went to school and got into debt for this. But this is called the sunken cost fallacy. We want to continue something we have invested into because of guilt or regret, even if we know it isn't the right choice. All the classes you took, all the all-nighters you pulled, connections you built, and not to mention the money you spent, all feels like it's going to waste and you're starting over. But this isn't actually true. You're not actually starting over. Every time you switch, you bring all the experiences from your previous domain into your new one.
A lot of people are afraid to switch for that reason because they feel like they're going to start over. You're not really starting over.
No.
You're bringing all of your other experiences with you.
I agree. And that applied to me when I changed professions. You know, what's the similarity between like working in healthcare and let's say computer science or programming or whatever? Essentially, they're both applied sciences in this sort. Like you could say like, oh, well, what's functional programming versus something that is more object oriented, let's say. It's a paradigm. But then you could say, well, in physical therapy, you could be more exercise based, or you could also be modality based. You could believe in the body's ability to heal itself, or you could believe that someone needs a lot of intervention and correction, etc. It comes down to an interpretation of learned material, and then you apply it.
Also, in that 2010 study that I mentioned earlier, for the professionals who had to switch, switching was always a better idea. They lost a portion of their skills, but their growth rates were way faster. And there are tons of examples of people who are successful after switching. Van Gogh was an art salesman and a teacher. He enrolled in art school at 33. The creator of the Nintendo Game Boy used to be a maintenance engineer. Stan Lee created Spider-Man in his 40s after being a World War II Army repairman. For every Mark Zuckerberg that achieved success early on, there are dozens of people who achieve success after trying out tons of different things and failing over and over again. I talked about this in a previous video, but basically if you view yourself 10 years ago, you can see just how much you've changed in the past. But you'll still underestimate how much you'll change in the future. Because we change a lot more than we expect, I don't feel like it's a good idea to set absolute, rigid, long-term goals. Paul Graham, the co-founder of Y Combinator, said, "It might seem that nothing would be easier than deciding what you like, but it turns out to be hard. Partly because it's hard to get an accurate picture of most jobs. Most of the work I've done in the last 10 years didn't exist when I was in high school. In such a world, it's not a good idea to have fixed plans."
So have you ever thought about trying something else out?
Like it doesn't matter if I'm good at it or not.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
I have not. I think I'm in that camp where like I'm too afraid to try something else out because
Like if there were no responsibilities or obligations, what would you try?
maybe music.
Music, I think. More creative fields.
Nice.
I'd like to try something.
I like music a lot. I like podcasts, political podcasts. I like talking about things. Yeah.
Nice.
You know what would be really cool?
What?
Something that's about like rehabilitation, but not of people, like mechanical things or houses.
Oh, you mean like restoring cars?
Yeah, restore motorcycles,
Yo.
cars, and not only that, but you do it for a client. So it's kind of like a combination of two things I like, a technical field, and then also like an aspect of rehabilitation and the person. So that'd be kind of cool.
Such a cool, I didn't even think about that until now, like rehab plus technical. I can see exactly where those two come together. That is so cool.
When we only value early progress, we end up ignoring a ton of people just because they don't show some arbitrary signs of success early on. We rely a lot on academic progress when it isn't really a good indicator of your true potential. And we can see this in the real world. There is no test that will tell you how to live your life. You'll most likely not choose the right field or career or path in life the first time. You're gonna fail over and over again before you succeed. And that's okay. That's how you achieve success, and that's how you achieve greatness. I'm sorry to say there's no perfection in real life, no matter how much I would like there to be. Even while making this video, like 90% of it did not go to plan. I didn't film everything I wanted to in New York. I didn't know how to interview people properly, and honestly, I was scared to record in public. But I learned a lot, and I'm glad I did this. And that's what I think is the most important, always learning. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you. Here's a banana. Here's another banana. Here's another banana. Here's another banana. Here's another